Hello and welcome to my time alignment tutorial using Adobe Audition. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using the easiest possible example to demonstrate time alignment. And in this case, I'm going to be using two ear monitor feeds from U2's guitarist The Edge. One is recorded with the same ear monitor pack that The Edge uses, while the other is recorded through a radio scanner. The pack recording is in stereo and has a fuller sound, while the scanner is a bit more tinny and mono. They were both recorded using the now obsolete Nomad JB3, so while they have similar time clock architecture, but they weren't synced while recording, so they don't have exactly the same time clock. The goal of this tutorial is to demonstrate how to time align these two independent recordings. First, you will need some tools beyond your common sense and good headphones, although you will certainly need both of those. I use a combination of Adobe Audition CC and Audition version 3. After Audition 3, Adobe completely rebuilt the main engine for Audition CS5 and didn't even reintroduce the time stretch feature until CS6. Currently, the most recent addition is Audition CC, which is what I also use. CS6 and CC are both significant upgrades to Audition 3. However, the time stretch algorithm for Audition CC and CS6 are not as accurate as Audition 3. Therefore, you can do everything for the time alignment in Audition CC much easier, except the actual time alignment. By that, I mean the actual time stretch. I'll likely provide examples of this later, but for right now, just take my word for it. The math is relatively simple. A long time ago, I wrote a spreadsheet for rendering the time stretch ratios. Originally designed for Audition 3, it still works for Audition CC. The basic math is taking a sample count between two different sections, finding the difference, and then developing the ratio from there. You can do it by hand, or you can set it up however you want, but I personally like my spreadsheet. It does the grunt math for me, and I can often see the ratios between each sections and compare them. If one is significantly different than the surroundings, I can either mess up the sync points or there's a dropout or a missing packet in the case of SD cards. So let's get started. First off, you want to open up Audition CC and you'll load up your files. For example, you can see with mine, I've got the sync scanner file and the sync Sennheiser file. That's short for the pack that the Edge uses. So if you want to load them up and then you drop them in your multi-track like this, and then you're going to want to roughly sync them up. So zoom in a little bit. That looks kind of about right. So we've got one song right here. That sounds like Vertigo to me. Alright, so that's roughly about the same start time. But it's not precise enough for our purposes. But at least it got our files within the right striking distance. So now we go to the beginning. We try and find a good place where we can sync it up. One of the reasons I chose these recordings is the Edge uses both counts and a metronome in order to help him keep in time. We can use these to our advantage when trying to find sync points. So if you look here,
1, 2, 3, 4.
You can hear the counts and the clicks. Let's zoom in closer.
2.
There's one right there. Let's go ahead and just normalize it so it's a little easier to view.
2. 2. 2.
Okay. So let's go ahead and just try and zero in on the click there. So if you look at, moving it over, that looks like about the start point of the click. Let's zoom in a little closer. Notice you can use your zoom here. That does the vertical. You can zoom in here, the left and right. I just use the positive and negative signs on my keyboard to zoom in a little bit easier. So if you look, so there's a valley right there, and a valley there. Valley there, little mountain there, another valley. So you're looking at it, when you want to look for a good spot in order to sync it up, you want to be looking at the whole thing. You want to try and find a nice good peak or a nice valley where you can sync up, but you got to be looking at the whole thing. So here, there, there. So you feel reasonably confident that this is where it all lines up. Let's zoom in a little closer. All right. So right there, if you look at it a little bit closer, so we got the nice valley dip right there, the nice valley dip right there. And the very bottom part is right in the middle there. So let's go ahead and I'll double click on scanner recording. Now I'm going to press M and I'm going to drop a marker right there. I'm going to do the same over here, drop a marker there. Okay. So now we pull back out. And so what we can now say is that at that exact point, those two recordings are time aligned. At that point only. Now, depending on the drift, sometimes you can start hearing it going off sync with it really fast. But in this case, I bet you it'll probably still be fine.
3, 4.
Okay. So let's find some more sync points. Let's go to the beginning of the next song. Okay, so there's Beautiful Day, the next track. And this one starts off
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Nice little count off there. So that looks like a click right there. Let's zoom in again. Normalize. Normalize. Find a good point where it maybe lines up. Okay, so I'm kind of eyeballing here. So that kind of looks like that lines up right about there. Good. All right, so just kind of eyeballing it. So now I double check. That lines up, that lines up, that lines up with there. Got a nice one right there. Again, see where it all is just lining up down here too. So I feel reasonably confident that that's a good sync point right there. Now we get it even closer. See, it looks like it's even off. So even with the panned out, it looked good, but when you get closer, actually it's going to be a little more accurate. Get it right there. So that middle one right there is the very top of the peak. That's right there, the top of the peak there. I'm going to pick it just over the crest. Let's put one in there. Bingo. All right. So now we've got another sync point for that one click.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now, you can even look back. So this is the first one we did. So over the course of that one song, this is how much changed. So we're looking at 65 samples difference. That's how much it's out of sync later on. Okay. Now let's go to the next song. Alright. Again, we're back at Vertigo. Let's go ahead and let's give ourselves a little bit more power. There's the click track. Okay, so we're looking at a little bit of a cutoff there. Alright, let's line it up. That looks kind of reasonable right there. You got peaks there, peak there, double dip. Okay, that looks pretty reasonable to me. So let's find a nice, good song. So see the very bottom there, the very bottom, right in the middle. Let's go ahead and add a marker there. Add a marker there, and we're good. All right, let's go to the next song. We're just going to do the first five songs right now, just for example. All right. Now we're at elevation. Let's normalize. Scanner feed. Normalize. Let's find a good click to zero in on. Looks kind of like you see two big ones right there, and it seems to match up a little bit. Okay. Let's see here. That's the very top one right there. Then you see it starts to crest over. You got it going on right here too. Let's double check, pull back out. You see a bunch of little squiggly ones, then you get a bigger spike there. Again here. Matches down here too. So, in some cases you might come on and you might see, oh, well, I've got a spike here and it might line up there. But then the rest of it, when you start looking at the whole picture, it doesn't really line up. That's why you want to find your markers and you really got to check, because if you mess up the markers, then the whole thing's going to be busted. So let's go here. So again, that's the top one. That's the top one. Let's get the one right before it. Marker. Hit M for marker. And we're good. Okay. Let's go to the next song. I Hear Gloria. Zoom in a little closer. Let's try this one here. Okay. So it's almost like the big double spike there corresponds with this one. There's a couple medium ones, and then there's big spikes again. So I bet that lines up right here. All right. So we've got peak right there lines up, some medium ones, another big peak, little bit of a double dip there, big peak. So that, and then you see the little double right there. That seems to line up about right. So let's go ahead and zero in on one of the big ones. Let's line it up. Now here's an interesting one. It's hard to actually tell where the start and the stop point is there, because there's no easy apex. But this one may be a little bit easier. So there's the very bottom one. There's the bottom one. So let's go ahead and we'll just get it right after. All right. So that, first couple songs, I believe. Let's go ahead and we'll just go with that. So for this example, I think we're just going to do the first couple songs and keep it simple. So now that we're done, we found those points. Let's go ahead and go back. Let's undo those normalizations we did just for illustrative purposes. So I'm just undoing there. I'm doing a Control Z. And now I'm going to do it on the other ones too. Control Z. All right. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Now let's load in, zero back into the very first one. Let's realign it back on that. So that's what we're going to start with. All right. Mind you, I think I forgot to mention this earlier. Right click allows you to select everything. If you do a left click, that's what allows you to drag. Big difference there. Left click is the drag. All right. So now, again, going in really close. You can see those are the two markers within each file. So I could drag that one and take it out of sync. So that's the very beginning. So now, let's go ahead and go. We're going to go into, I'm going to double click on the scanner feed. Go right there. So over here I have it set up so it displays the markers. So this is the first marker, and for a reason, because I was working on another project, it has 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's go ahead and just do that. So let's go over to our Excel spreadsheet here. Now, if only just to correspond with the numbers. So here's the cue point number 6. We're just going to ignore the first 1 through 5 right now. So let's start with 6. So right here is the actual sample count. Over here is kind of a hangover from when I had it set up for Audition 3 and I had to render the sample counts from the time signature. We don't have to do that with Audition C because we can select the sample right there. I'm sorry, the sample signature. So now, let's go ahead and zoom in nice and close, and you can even cheat by using the start samples here. So we're going to sync the Sennheiser to the scanner mix. So this is the scanner mix is going to be our reference track. So I'm going to copy time there, put the 6. Let's go to the next one. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. All right. Go back to the multi-track. Do it this way because if you go the other way, it's not going to refer to the actual time signature of the multi-track. Just play with it, you'll figure it out. So go back to the multi-track, double click on the other feed, the one that we want to time stretch, double click on it. So again, now we're at the marker list. So copy. Now we want to go to the source 2, 6, paste. Copy, paste. Copy, paste. Copy, paste, and so on. Okay. Now, look down. So we're looking at, so the syncs through 6 through 7, 7 through 8, 8 through 9, 9 through 10. So it's these 4 right here are the ones that we really care about. Ignore the other ones right now because they don't have the appropriate information settled in. So right now we're just focused on the ratios between 6 and 7, 7 and 8, 8 and 9, 9 and 10. Which makes sense because if you look, 6 through 7, 7 through 8, so think of them as ranges. So we're going to shrink 6 through 7 by this ratio right here. Now, you can do this in Audition CC. You go to time and stretch and pitch, and then so you resample, precision high, Audition, and then you copy paste. We don't want to do a final stretch. We copy paste our ratio right there. Now remember what I said earlier about how Audition 3 is more accurate. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these files right here with the markers in them. We're going to do a file save, and then we're going to reopen it up in Audition 3. So now pull up Audition 3 and go ahead and import your files, as I've already done, and you can see them right over here. So let's drag and drop them over again. So there's the sync scanner. There's the sync Sennheiser. Let's zoom in a little bit closer, and you see, again, our old sync files. Let's get them right on there. Hey, you can see them right there. So let's pull back out. Now we're going to go back into the sync Sennheiser file. So this is the one that we want to time align to our reference track. So we select the area between 6 and 7. Make sure you have the snaps on in order so it'll automatically click into wherever the markers are instead of you having to zoom in extra close. So let's go into Effects, Stretch. I have a shortcut set for Shift 3 over here. We want to make sure it's resample because we don't want to be adjusting everything else. We don't want to do any sort of extra processing and high precision. We're not dealing with sharp enough resamples to really change the pitch. So now we can switch. So we just selected between 6 and 7. So I'm going to take that ratio right here, copy paste. I should say copy. And we paste it in here. Hit OK. Go to the next one. 7 through 8, copy. Between 7 and 8. Paste. Click OK. Go back to the Excel. 8 through 9. And so on. And finally 9 through 10. Okay, now we go back to our multi-track, and let's take a look. One of the things I don't like about Audition 3 is sometimes it doesn't always let you zoom in very nicely. But you look there and there. You see the dotted line and allows you to see that they're lined up. Let's go to the second one. Again, nice and straight. Let's go all the way to the last one, double check, make sure the whole thing's been set up. Now, if for some reason, let's do it. See the exact between this marker, these two samples, those markers line up. So things are lined up perfectly on those spots. The closer the spots you get, the more spots you have, the more accurate it'll be. If you look at the spreadsheet, the ratios have actually changed over the period of time. We've actually got a couple, some minor percentage points. So they're lined up, and in theory, these are pretty much aligned. So let's go ahead and we'll test that. Let's listen to them a little bit. Let's get the levels about the same. Let's go and mono out the stereo mix. They're going to have slightly different sound processes, the same. So now I just inverted one of them. So now they're trying to mix together, but they should be about the same. So now that they're phase inverted, you can tell that they're canceling each other out. Flip back, phase inverted. So if we go later in the section where it's probably not time aligned, what do we got here? So that's the streets have no name. You can even hear it being out of sync. You hear the sound change, but there's no cancellation because they're not in line. So now, we've got this here. So let's go ahead and save that again. And then we're going to reopen it on Audition CC. So now bringing the files back up in Audition CC. It's just a lot easier to do these kinds of things and do with post-production work in here. So let's go ahead and we'll line it back up. Let's go back to the beginning. Alright, let's zoom in. Let's get it locked in. Drag. Okay. So ideally for a regular show, you're going to have one where the whole file, the whole show is done. Now, just for simplicity's sake, we only did the first 5 tracks. So now, in order to just load it into either multi-track, you could leave it like this, or one of the things that I do is I like having at least the start of the files always being the same. So I'm going to take just the first section here. So this is the difference to the start there. I'm going to copy that, put it here in the beginning. Now, if I were to pull it up in another multi-track file, or I'm sorry, a digital audio workstation, if I just open the two up, and if I line them up all at the beginning, so they're all started at 0, 0, you see here, 0, 0, at the first sync point, they'll be lined up. And now, at this point, your files are aligned. You can play with them all you want, mix to your heart's content. Ordinarily, it will not be this easy in order to find the time alignment sync points. You're going to see a lot of crazy things, a lot of different feeds that are going to be different. However, this is just an example, and I'm sure I'll have more later that might be a little more complicated. But for now, that is the gist of how to do time alignment with Adobe Audition.